right, so this is another edition of a hallway hangout. We are continuing the conversation we had in the last hallway hangout around phase 2, wrapping up phase 2 and this big phase 2 customization issue on GitHub. 6.1 was also released yesterday for anyone in the future. So kind of a combination, checking in around 6.1, what's come up with 6.2, and then also just right before this, Ellen asked about what's happening with the outreach program. Is it ending because 6.1 is out? What's the deal there? So I wanted to kick off briefly addressing that. It is not ending because 6.1 is out. First of all, I will do a lot of communication around when the outreach program ends. This involves like a lot of different stakeholders, including everything from talking directly to Josepha about it since she originally kicked it off back in the day. And then also just making sure, can it continue in different forms? So my ideal, this is my personal opinion, is that I'd love to see it continue in a different form, even if some official efforts as a sponsor contributor aren't done. And like what that looks like can be something we can all kind of figure out. Maybe we move away from the same kinds of calls for testing, but we have like a page that goes in great detail of like if people want to go through and test and how to report feedback, or maybe we default to doing more of these kinds of hallway hangouts, or it turns into kind of like a triage channel. So if you have an issue with something, folks like myself can jump in and help move it forward. So there's a lot of different variations of what this could look like, but we are in new territory. This was a brand new experimental program, even though we're 2 years on. So I think the experiment has worked. And so I'm curious what we can learn. And also eventually it will, as we enter phase 3 and kind of work there with collaborative editing, at some point, all good things must come to an end, but they will be very communicated. It will be slow, kind of imagine gradual adoption with site editing in general. That's how this program is going to probably slowly fade. I don't see it being a sudden thing. And also last week I mentioned I thought I was going to have ham surgery, which also would have impacted this. Went to a different surgeon and I do not. So yay.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I don't need to deal with that. Yeah, and if I do, it'll be in like 6 months. So I think I'm in the clear there as well, which is great. With all of that said, I wanted to briefly go over some 6.1 stuff just at a glance. So let's see if I can do this off the top of my head. At a high level, I'm noticing 2 major issues. One is around some infinite loops that are happening. And the other is around, I'm going to drop, I will include links to the recaps. I've shared all of this in the 6.1 release leads channel, which is where the release leads have gathered. So there's one around infinite loops, and there's another around some fatal errors with the WPML plugin, which is a premium plugin. So I just wanted to keep you all appraised of that. I don't know necessarily how widespread all this is across different hosts, but those are the 2 that are really standing out when I look across the community. And also, I am a sponsor contributor from Automatic, so we have things like WordPress.com and VIP and Newspack and such. So those are the 2 issues I wanted to note.
Is that a general 6.1 issue with WPML? Because I'm using that on one of our sites, actually.
Let me drop you the, actually I can share my screen.
Oh, yeah, cool. I can check it out.
Yeah, this is what I would look at. So there's a nice post here. And it notes they knew that there was going to be breaking issues, and on Monday they'll release. So as long as I think you're up to date, it should work.
I don't like that plugin, to be honest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can say that, but it's like it's just too bloated. But for like multilingual, it's like with WooCommerce, it's like I don't know if it's still the only option, but for a long time it was the only option to combine multilingual WooCommerce.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And once you have that on your site, it's really hard to get it
to untangle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like,
interesting. I don't have any strong opinions, and you can share whatever you like. So yeah, but yeah, this is one of the issues.
It's gotten like way better. Like years back, it was like every update, it was like, oh my gosh, this plugin.
Look what's gonna happen.
And I had no other way of like supporting WooCommerce and multilingual, and now we're kind of like stuck with it on one of our sites. But yeah, multilingual is always like a headache. Anyways,
like what is that phase 4? Yeah, we can jump ahead.
Maybe phase like 0. It should.
I know.
It's hard. I can imagine it's super hard, but it's off. Like it's sad that it's not by default somehow in WordPress available.
Yeah, it is an interesting problem to solve. I'm curious too, like when you think about site editing, collaborative editing, and then we're gonna throw in I don't know how it's gonna work, but I hope someone
Yeah,
does.
it's just like difficult, I guess, like from the technical part.
That's great to know
But
with WooCommerce. I'll follow up with those folks there just in case. I'm sure they're aware of this. But I'm trying to run around and
yeah,
communicate to everyone.
by now there are probably alternative solutions for multilingual
Mhm.
WooCommerce. This was like 5 years back, and we just had this one option, and
Mhm.
then like yeah, once it's hard to switch a multilingual site because all the plugins work differently. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you have
So
to research if there's
yeah,
another
those are
solution.
causing some fatal errors. So some 500 errors. So heads up there. And then the other issues I want to talk on briefly, there are four main issues I'm seeing coming up in terms of like the user experience. So one is the block and serve button is missing in some cases. That's being investigated right now, which is obviously not great because that's one of the main ways to insert buttons. Some folks are confused by fluid typography. We're seeing this where users are wanting to turn it on and off because it's changing font sizes in a way they are not expecting. There's not an issue for that right now, but I'm working with some folks to get an issue filed, even if it's just feedback. Like we're not going to make technical changes. The UX needs to be better. Where we're explaining this to folks, and when they're setting custom sizes, it's not all of a sudden wildly different. So I think in one case, a user set it to 14 pixels, and all of a sudden it went up to 21, and they were like, "What? No, I want 14. What's going on?" So we need to communicate that a bit better. And then the last two, one is the view site, the new view site link opens into an incorrect URL depending on the specific site setup. So not all the time, but some of the time. And I'll drop a link to that, to these issues. And then the last one, the autocomplete. So the autocomplete for the links does not work in Japanese right now. And I just saw this before I jumped on here. But I will note these as like the main issues that I'm seeing currently. There are others that have already been noted for a point release, but I just like to cover kind of the new things that have come up in the last like 24 hours. So that's a rundown basically of 6.1 problems. Otherwise, 6.1 seems to be going really well, and the release is out in the wild, and it's very exciting to have out there. As you can tell, my brain loves to focus on negatives, but I do want to like applaud all the feedback that's gone into it, all the work that's gone into getting yet
They
another
sound
major release.
like particular, like
Yes.
minor things, like
Yeah,
very
there is
specific.
another issue that I haven't been able to replicate yet, which I have not mentioned, but there are some strange things happening with the post editor having some errors. So I'm not sure. It's not well replicated though. So I have not mentioned that one yet, but if that resonates, please check GitHub. All right. Does anyone want to talk about anything else related to 6.1, or can we jump ahead?
Just quickly, like from our perspective, with
Mhm.
block themes being the focus, the hardest part, and I was busy like with WooCommerce and jumped into 6.1 too late. That was my fault, but I had it like from different, like
Mhm.
Anna had this similar things happening, and now I got reports, but I need to prepare updates. The biggest thing was just general layout changes from the group block, because there was like some class changes, and the like in the patterns it was previously called inherit, like layout inherit, and that completely changed. And these like it was a little bit sad for me that I was like, oh my gosh, why do they change like the group log being so basic, that we had to do updates again. And then the general like site gap, and yeah, that didn't really work previously, and we had to build like a custom solution, and now there's like a default solution, and updating that again was a little bit like oof. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening, but updating existing themes was like, gosh, it's like hard. Why did we build these themes already? Like on one side of my head, I was like, oh God, why did we get these themes out already? And then it's like, we wanted to have like more themes out by this point, like, so it's like good and bad. Like for our business, we would have loved to have like stable themes out, like way more than we have now. But from the development side, I'm lucky that we don't. It's just like 3 sort of not experimental themes, but they seem experimental now looking back. But we can fix it. And yeah, we're just building our first Woo blog theme, and I'm just lucky that we didn't release it before 6.1. So I was able to squeeze in all these kind of neat updates for like general layout and like the group block constraint layout and stuff options, but it was still a lot for block theme builders to update. I was like, gosh, is this gonna go on, or when does it stop? Like, I mean, we love the changes, but like having block themes out there, it's like crazy a lot of work to keep up with the things.
What would have been helpful? Because I know the dev notes are not always everything. And I know we ran a hallway hangout talking about with Justin Tyler from Daisy, like generally talking about things, but like one of the things that comes to mind as you're talking is, you know, doing a hands-on like workshop, so to speak, or like, hey, bring what problems are you seeing with 6.1? Let's like work through them together. Because I'm sure
Yeah.
y'all
For
are
me,
probably
I
all
think it
doing the
was
same
just
stuff.
hard from the timing because I was so focused on the Woo things, and Woo has a lot of issues with like having a Woo block theme out is like a headache at the moment. So I don't know. I think I'm just always pushing a little bit too early. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm making it hard for myself. Probably, I don't know. I just saw Rich Tabor. He posted like a snippet thing of like developer updates on Twitter. Just like he dumped all the changes, and I think that like just like a compressed thing, because on Make WordPress, I'm like reading that post and then maybe I missed the next one. It's just a little random, or something like you do with the like bullet points, just like a compressed. Yeah, that one he did for developers. I think he did
You did
2.
another one for block themers? Okay. Yeah, this is
Just like a
let's see.
compressed.
Yeah.
I can.
I'm eventually gonna get flagged because I'm not on Twitter, so it's gonna yep. I hate this stupid thing. Yeah. But yeah, no,
I
I
can link
agree.
it, but just like it's hard to get an over. It's still like, even with what you are doing and what you sent me, the doc, it's still hard to get an overview what really affects us, and then yeah, just get it all together. I think it's just a lot at the moment still. I think it's gonna get easier,
I think a developer
but
blog, like because if developer blog is in progress, like I could see doing something where it's like, okay, we have the dev notes, but then here's like developer blog, here's everything for plugin authors, here's everything for theme authors, here's like just
yeah.
kind of making like sub things. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true, because not everything is like relevant for block themes. That would be actually helpful to just like compress it, because otherwise I'm just reading all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just the time at the moment that it's like a lot. And
There are also 2
I
times the
think,
number of dev notes in 6.1 compared to even 5.9. So
yeah, and I think
you
just
can see that here.
considering that block themes maybe still more experimental than we wish they would be, because like from a like business wise, I was like, I want to build block themes now. I don't want to like build hybrid themes or something and then have to update in a year. But there's still limitations to what we actually can put in front of
Yeah.
users, especially if it's like small business users. Like we have people building like agency websites, and now we come out with a Woo theme that is like needs to be way more like stable, and it's just hard to find a balance there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This also makes me, I was talking with the folks who are working on a lot of this layout support. It makes me wonder, a lot of them are in APAC, Asia Pacific area. And I bet they would be keen to kind of talk with folks like yourself around some of these things as they continue to evolve. So I wonder if that could be another outreach program idea.
I like the a little bit sad thing is that I really love the changes, but just from what we had before available, updating is like hard to kind of like stuff we didn't have. So we kind of found a solution, a workaround, having a block theme and then updating. And I just wonder, like, how is this going to continue to be as like that we have to always work so hard to update block themes to the latest
Yeah, and when it will stabilize
release,
a
or
bit
is
more.
it like easing off a little bit?
I like that. We'll just ease.
Well, the thing that I found too, to echo Helen, is that like I had so many shims and block themes to like support things that didn't exist, like
Yeah,
spacing
same.
or whatnot. I do think that optimistic, and it doesn't solve our problems today, but I do think that 6.1 is has a lot more things by default. The whole like layout, like the site layout or the site padding, and then gap.
Yeah, that
whatever.
one is like
The amount of CSS mess that was implemented to take care of that, even in 2022. Now you don't need that, but like converting someone's existing site like to that, it's like.
Yeah, that's the main thing that caught me. I was like, oh gosh, I like what I have now available, but how can I converge the things we built already? And just like, oh gosh, luckily I didn't release the Woo block theme before that.
Yeah. And do you know whatever happened with Theme Shaper?
What about
Yeah,
it?
It is
like shaping.
like it used to be like the place to go.
Yeah,
look
I
no,
like
for, like,
that too. I liked
theme
it.
stuff.
I need to I'm actually talking with a WordPress.com themer about I'm trying to figure out I can say this about using the create block theme plugin to create something that works with Woo and like how that experience is working. And I was like, this could be a really cool theme shaper post because like I know people like Ellen and Anna and like other folks are working on creating WooCommerce compatible block themes. So like, does create block theme work with that? If not, like, what's the experience like? Could you share like a step-by-step of how you're approaching that? So yeah, to be honest, it's one of the side sites that I like try to post on from time to time, but it's like, it's like I get too, if I'm going to post, I'm probably going to try to share it on Make Core. Or for example, there's a recent thing that I did that I almost put in Theme Shaper, but then put it in Core. So
I think
I go back and
it
forth.
used to be like default block theme builders kind of posting on there, like people who actually built the themes. I think that would be good to have there. Like Mel previously kind of often posted there when she was still working on themes. That was actually helpful. I have one like general, not request,
Good
but
feedback,
maybe like
yeah.
I just want to mention it because I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then it kind of like, there was no follow up. So Matt posted end of October a theme on Twitter again, one of the default WordPress org and WordPress.com themes, Pixel. And he just like randomly posted, hey, really cool theme, and just posted this one. And I was like, and this is like one of the most basic themes you've ever seen for WordPress. And I was like, okay, why? What? I mean, I thought, and I was like, okay, it's fun, but what does he mean by really cool theme? I was like, yeah, this one. So, okay, is he like making fun of of it? Is this like real? Is this a joke? Does he really mean it? Like, and
I think he
I was
really
like,
means it. He likes quirky, weird
and then
stuff.
I was like
Yeah.
asking him in the thread, like, okay, this looks really fun, but so is this now the direction we are going with full site editing? Is this where we should be focusing, like these super simple, fun, like Tumblr style themes, or like if I'm building a WooCommerce block theme, am I like, what am I doing? Like, is this even like the way to go? Like, do I like run into a wall, like trying to build a block theme for WooCommerce or something like more complex, or agency themes, or like, you know what, like the direction? And we've been like asking this before, like, who are we building for? Like, because it's so different from what we trying to do with the WooCommerce block theme. And previously, beginning of the year, we have done something similar, like just like a simple one pager resume theme we have been building. So just something simple and fun, what we did for just experimenting. But from our users, nobody really like wanted that. They always want the more complex things. And from my perspective, it's possible for full site editing themes to be like this complex, cool, component based themes that take advantage of a design system and things like that built in. But then what he like, this is so different. I was like wondering, but he didn't reply to me.
To be honest, I mean, I don't know the inner workings of Matt's brain, and I'm not Matt, but like from what I understand, Matt really likes quirky and weird, and you know, he's been CEO of Tumblr. Like, I think this is like him just being like, look, cool. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily
I thought so too, but then I
direction.
wondered, like, is full site editing meant for that only, or can we do both? Or
I
like,
think it's for both. Like my understanding, and like one of the things I think is cool is, well, one, block themes are changing the paradigm of themes. Like you're not going to add in a bunch of like certain functionality that might be in a plugin now, but before was baked into a theme. So that there is a level of what you're describing of like simplification and like almost kind of like we talked about before of like mixing and matching. So it's actually one of the issues I wanted to talk about was like some of there's some work around, where did I put it? Of like allowing access to variations from any theme. So these are some of the issues that are like being discussed that are like tangential to phase 2 that like touch on this exactly. And so I think in the future, in my mind, what you're describing is like, I think where patterns will really shine too. Like some of that more advanced layouts or advanced, like almost like functionality, for lack of a better term, I could see being put into patterns, which are bundled in block themes, which also could be divorced from block themes. Like it's a confusing, weird shift. Does that
from
make any
my
sense?
perspective too, like for what we are building, and if we have multiple themes, I think for us, patterns really come, like building, like a building pattern set really come into place. Like being independent from a theme, it just makes more sense. Otherwise, we're just repeating ourselves over and over.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for us, it's funny because it like getting more into block theme, it becomes like more complex and more like system thinking, and then like Matt just posted this theme. I was like, yeah, that's easy. I can do that like in a couple
Yes.
of
Yeah.
hours. But can we do more, or am I like not in the right space with full site editing and trying to do more complex
I
things?
don't read
It's just
into
like,
Matt's tweet.
no,
I think
I
it's just like,
I just
cool.
like
I
just
just,
jumped
like,
into my head. I was like, that's funny.
yeah.
Because it's so different from what we're trying to accomplish.
I think that the goal is to do everything. And I mean, I've had some
Yeah,
conversations with large agencies that are maybe not terribly public about it, but doing some very interesting things with very advanced blocks and really harnessing this stuff to do
Really cool.
magical things with in a block first system. So you can have your pixel theme, but you also can do some very, very complicated things as well. But yeah, I personally am, I'll be candid to everybody. Like I'm taking a lot of my old block themes and just throwing them away, keeping the aesthetic the same, but it's not necessarily the fault of, I took what was available and took it to the next level, like with custom classes to do things that I couldn't do, you know, custom code to do things that it couldn't do at that time. But now it just strip it all out, refresh it with just take all the content out, insert the content back in, with, you know, a much simpler architecture. So, but it is a change. And I think that people that
Would you
built,
blog about that at all? Because I kind of want to read a post about that.
yeah, no, I can. It's yeah,
we do the same. It's exactly the same. Which is just like the sad part is just that it's a lot of work. And like, how do we have, like, we actually are a business, so we like have to have customers on our themes, but so we can't just be like super like, okay, now we're just rebuilding it, hey everyone. So that's like a super hard challenge for us, like,
and it also ties into managing updates. I was talking to some folks about
pushing
that.
the boundaries, but having a business and like real customers on these themes, it's like it's been a challenge the past year, and that's why I like ask like how how is this easing, like how much stability do we get, like.
Yeah. And these are great. It makes me want to incorporate this somehow into the 6.2 roadmap and like the conversations with some of this stuff. Because this gets very like borderline philosophical. And I do think the answer is, which is always the answer with WordPress, is like we're trying to do it all. We're trying to do it all for everyone and have it be as like flexible and extendable as possible. So I can tell you like that's like always going to be at the root of it. But also for people like you should be able to have an understanding of like which parts are probably shifting more than others. Yeah. Jeff, do you have any, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just curious like where your head is at as you listen to this stuff, because I just know you're more deep in the block theme stuff than I am.
I think with Pixel specifically, it's like, how do you attract more and different perspectives, new people to WordPress? And like, yeah, you might elevate like a specific design because that's like in your taste or whatever. And I think that, yeah, largely, how do you think about the next generation of people who are going to be attracted to using this piece of software to build their website with? And block themes as an opportunity maybe to ease that and lower the barrier of entry for people to be able to create those kinds of things, and create those compelling or interesting or quirky designs. But yeah, like it has to obviously, or hopefully along the way, that enables people doing more complex things to be able to push the boundaries as well. But sometimes I get lost in who's being prioritized here, why, like what trade-offs exist. Like it's all yeah, it's not straightforward.
I just shared the like fun like one page little kind of theme we did as like a bit of an answer to like just a fun
cool.
quick like one pager people
Ooh, this is fun.
But yeah, that
Wow.
was like it's already like 6 months old, and this is one of the themes where like, oh God, we pushed the boundaries a little hard, like now updating like the same experience Nick just shared. It's because we're like, okay, let's do a fun quick thing people can just like start a one pager.
But does it need to be updated? Like, why can't it just live?
It also has like a lot of the spacings and custom CSS classes, and especially like making it compatible, like for us, like in the future, maybe updating it. Yeah, but I don't think it will be like updated like heavily, but it's not working in the kind of system we trying to create now. But the system I think will be more like for WooCommerce themes. We want to be able to have a system like a base behind all our themes so they kind of work the same, and then we can just push updates faster. But this was like, yeah, like our approach of, okay, let's have a fun like thing, experimental thing.
It's the little things, man. I'm such a nerd.
It was fun. But yeah, but our users, like always, like from like we've been building themes for like 10 years, they always want the more complex the better. Like, oh, build WooCommerce in, like, oh, give me all the agency patterns, give me everything in one theme. It's like, it's always like our thing. Like we can build these things and they're fun for us and stuff, but for like from the business side, like the more complex, the more people will like it.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think what attracts people to WordPress.
Yeah, and then you have a leaner site anyway. Like you're not having to install a bunch of other stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I want this like animation on the
I was like,
blocking
okay,
Zoom.
I'm gonna put
I'm obsessed
just a personal website on.
Okay, I like want to put this in the.
You can have it. Actually, now we're doing the same as Nick. We will probably release that as a free theme. Just have it as a free theme on WordPress.
Yeah, because like imagine you're bouncing through here and these were all moving. I don't know why. I just want that. I'm like, go back. Where's the? Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying though about the complexity, and then how you can manage the updates and what you can actually update and how you approach it. And This is really
I mean,
good.
we put ourselves on the spot too, like Nick said, it's our
Mm-hmm.
fault that we like started early and
Right. I mean, the more things that get included into core, I was thinking about this. There's a ticket that's happening for 14.5 about improving the cover block and like media and text, and about how like classes and layout, basically making the cover block support like layout controls, which I've been wanting forever, right? Well, to do that, that inherently changes how classes are, handled within the cover block. Well, if you built anything custom on the cover block, like that's external to WordPress, like that's possibly a big problem. And I ran into that this morning. But it's not that the change is bad. Like we want that change. The problem comes when you're trying to extend WordPress, or create these shims or build on top of it. That when the foundation's moving,
yeah.
it can create problems. But I do want that. I do want layout control and cover block. So it's that give and take where we need progress, but stuff breaks along the way. So
Yeah. And for us, like, and I think a lot of others, like building teams, we're like, we need something to work, like actually to put in front of a customer. Like with this theme, like the Cori theme, this was like a fun thing and we can release it as WordPress org. But now moving into something like e-commerce and stuff, it's like, oh gosh, what are we getting into? Like, can I actually sustainably put something in front of a customer and say, you can use that and be like, I hope it will work. Like we have to be more conservative then.
I'm curious, because this is around like there's the maintaining a theme aspect of this, and then there's the user experience side of this. And so I promise I'm not trying to just fully shift to talk about the phase 2 stuff, but like it makes me think about this because I'm like, are we addressing, what's missing from here from like a block themer perspective, basically? Like when you look through this, or have you looked through this and looked at this and thought, oh, when this is all done, this will make block theming easier? Like, is it all going to get harder, or like what will help in terms of making things feel more stable? Because it sounds like there's a stability for the user experience, and then separately there's stability for maintenance. Is that right? Okay, I'm gonna
I think
note that down.
I think the one of the things I'm most excited about, and I've just like browsed through, but I think we've talked about this before, is having the patterns be more like accessible and easier to like drag and drop and filter. I think filter, because it's gonna be like for us, especially with more complex themes, we want to have like a library of patterns, and then filtering these will be like, they will grow like because
Yeah,
if we have a
this
library
is, I don't know
being
if you've
able
seen this work.
for every theme of ours, like have maybe 5 or 10 themes, and then have a library of patterns that work with all these themes, then we need a lot of filters to be like, to not
To
confuse
scale
users,
it.
like with the
Yeah.
categories. Yeah, like something like that will be a huge help, I think, from the users perspective to make it, yeah.
To dig into that a
Because
little bit more, so in that like view, like what would you anticipate? There's the categories, right? What would be the next step to build that out?
Because right now
I think
this was implemented, so there's larger previews. But yeah, I'd be curious to practically like what you're.
I think just from this view, I would like love, like it's still these one column going down for the patterns, and I think that's a lot of like scrolling still involved. Maybe have like, I don't even know, like full screen definitely as an option, and then
Well, there's the manage there's the you can open it
yeah.
in the modal with that button.
Let me
Yeah,
let me pull up a test site that doesn't have like weird stuff on it.
Yeah,
Hold
you
on, let me
showed
find.
that before.
I've totally
And then
forced on my
maybe in
test
the
sites.
end having something similar with page templates, or how do we, because people are gonna like want the page templates kind of preview, like not only patterns, because that's still kind of a lot of work too. So now we have been building these like not ideal page patterns, because just as a workaround to get people like drag and drop the whole page, but how can
Oh,
they
this is
preview these like larger? whole like site templates, because I
I
think
think
people
it's
are
not
still
bug.
too lazy to like push the patterns onto each other, and then kind of they want the full page template, just toss it in. And this one is still like hard to preview. That
Yeah,
would
so
be
this
great,
right
I think.
now is like how, so I'm specifically using like a not default theme because I think it's a better way to find different edge cases. So in this case, you can see the Tove, all of these are listed, and yeah, this is still pretty, and then you have to scroll all the way down to see explore all patterns. That's kind of an interesting.
Yeah, and then the general is like, okay, what is that? That's not really helpful.
Yeah, and
so
then
everything that you can't like name, you put into general.
Yeah, there's an issue.
And that's gonna be a lot. But I think the page pattern, or is it a template, or how do we preview this? Because that's really popular for people to just see a theme, see the pages, and just drop the whole thing in. But
Yeah. I know some of this is also being done to a number of things. It's like, how do we revisit the pattern categories? So I think if I'm using,
Ellen, are you using the default categories, or are you doing your own?
doing my own.
Yeah.
I mean, we try to stick with the same naming conventions, but we don't have the default like pattern library in our themes, because it's just like we talked about that before too. It's like confusing, and
No.
the design is like it's a mess.
That's the direction I
Not
would go
really
as well.
working. Yeah, it's not really working, I think, for professional use. But yeah, I wonder if like page patterns is actually a way to go. I think I asked that before because I'm a little bit confused on how this will gonna like work out, or what
there
we
are
should
some
do
like
about
starter patterns. What is it called? No, not starter patterns.
Because if you look at like systems like
Oh.
page builders and stuff, they build these page templates.
Yeah.
And this seems to be pretty popular.
What
Because
is this
people
called?
can
I'm not
see a
going to find
preview
them.
of a whole page and drop it in, because it's still a lot of design decisions if you stack patterns on top of each other and kind of need to make your own decisions. I think
Have you
the starter patterns are
have you explored the page patterns in Core, where you can assign them as page patterns, and then when someone goes to create a new poster page, it like presents those and they can insert them?
No, I haven't seen that.
Hold on, that's what.
That
there we
sounds
go.
like a solution.
This is, I
what
think,
we do at the moment is we put like a category of pages in the patterns, but I think it's not ideal.
So in this case, if you were creating a new post, it would present you with a set of patterns that are like, you could say are page patterns.
All right, I wrote this, so self-promotion.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, perfect. Yep, this would be, I was like, this is a dev note, which is not great. And the good news is with 6.1, it's now expanded to any post type. So it's not just, before it was just a certain subset for 6.0. We did a call for testing around it at one point. Yeah.
So you can do like, you can define ones for like posts, you can do like custom post types, you can do pages.
You mean only assign the pattern to page? Yeah. Okay, we've done that. Okay, I will check it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it sounds like the solution.
It might be.
I'm sure there's improvement possible, but yeah.
Maybe for just like preview improvements, I guess, probably.
Yeah. My thing that I don't like about this is that you can't, it's annoying to me that it would happen on every single post. Like that's the, and like obviously you can click X and get out of it, but I don't typically love that. Like that's not something where I still like the idea of having it in the sidebar where you could like drag full things in. But yeah, otherwise this is, I think, a good solution. If I were, I actually have a friend whose site I set these up with. Who keeps like, I just want to do the same thing and have the same post and make it easier. And I was like, I can do that for you right now. Hold on.
It's cool with custom post types. Like if you have like very specifically designed custom post types for things, like especially like for client work, like I know people have been using it for like, they have publications or books or something that's specific, then they can preload a design or a couple different designs they can pick from each time. So
Even for
Agreed.
posts,
That's
maybe like author, like mentioning that, like an author section or something on a poster with different
Mhm.
layouts.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And then you can get into locking, so you can actually have like a pattern that's locked. So for client work, that's also I
Yeah.
think a neat thing to examine too. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, but this is a great. I'm gonna highlight this in the notes. Oh, I already had it. Great.
I thought you're not supposed to be typing, Anne.
I know, I'm like constantly. I do want to give an update just before because I need to be cognizant of time and my DMs are building up. I glanced and was like, ah. I gave a longer update yesterday. This is actually shifted, but I just gave up because I'm just going to update it next week. So I'm going to probably do these every week because, to be honest, I'm looking at this issue, and this issue is going to set probably the foundation for 6.2, and not probably, it's most likely going to set the foundation for a lot of the initial work for 6.2, and obviously we'll expand it beyond it. But this is kind of like the short-term look, and the outreach program always wants to stay up to date on the latest and greatest and what needs to be tested and what's being iterated upon. So I was looking at each of these issues. You should see my email, like every single comment on everything, and was following all these, and then eventually realized that probably others are doing the same. So this is a really overwhelming. I recognize that there's a lot of emojis. There's probably a better way to do this, and part of what I think was created since this was done is there's a project board that I'm probably not going to be able to find quickly. That was also created to make it easier for folks who want to jump in. Let's see. I'll find it at some point. But there is also a project board that goes along with what's shared here, mainly because things were being shifted from like, there's no design to now there's a design, but then development doesn't know to grab it. So this is the latest update. I personally find it easy enough to follow, but like the check is like this work is done. Green means dev is on it. Yellow basically indicates like we're still stuck. Like there's either a dev is assigned or there's design is talking about things. And design is with the paintbrush because I didn't know what else to do. And then in a couple places there's some follow-up and we're blocked. So you can see, for example, this week, I did this previously with the last hallway hangout and shared some stats. And before it was like design was stuck. So there was like 10 things needing design. And now this week there's like 9 things needing development, which is great. Love to see that movement. And hopefully next week we'll see this number go down. But this is a snapshot of the different issues and where things are. There's a number of draft PRs where it's very, what I would say, like pretty, like you can see quick and dirty concept. Like a lot of them are kind of in that stage. So in terms of the outreach program, I'm trying to figure out what we can test right now and whether it makes sense to wait or, you know, potentially still jump in or do more like explorations rather than calls for testing. So looking at some early prototypes.
It looks
but at a
like
high
a
level,
good overview. I like it.
do you? Okay, great. I like
That's,
it too.
I think from the beginning, that's
visual.
like what I need. Like I need the bullet points and the topics.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the
So
style. I think on styles there's so much potential. I wish like for what like we are trying to get like designs out. I wish there would be more like especially export import things like that would be so cool to have.
what do you, let's look at that. Speaking of, this was just opened 5 days ago, so very new. And it relates to this work. There's another issue that I think there's one around staving style variations.
Yeah, that's like I think
and
for
warnings.
like users that would be so helpful because I think there's all the potential in styles and it's like hidden away and there's not much there to use.
Let me see if I can, it didn't help
Custom
anything,
color
did it?
palette exports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, I have a controversial question.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear it.
So style variations are very interesting. I think they're cool for like an end user perspective, but I think that they are, at least from the feedback that I've been getting, they've been largely being ignored in a more professional setting where you're building sites for clients. So I think it's a cool option to have and showcase different things, especially if you're like selling a theme. I think it's really cool in that space or providing a theme on .org. But I know that most people who are building themes for clients are just they have a brand guideline and that's their brand guideline, and they're just not doing style variations. So while I think that like copying and pasting style variations is like would be an awesome thing to do, I think perhaps an equally important or perhaps even more important thing is to be able to copy block styles on the block level. Like if you were to like take time and style a paragraph or style a group, and then be able to copy that style at the block level to another block, I think that would be like, from a workflow perspective, really powerful.
Does this seem related to you? Like, is
Yep,
this is kind
exactly
of like
exactly.
okay, great.
I was just
Okay.
talking about like in priority of like, I think that, I mean, obviously copying style variations would be really cool, but I think copying block styles would be something that would be like game changing for a much larger population of users. So
Yeah.
Or like when you talked about branding colors, like exporting, importing your own branding set into different themes, so you could like switch or like applying to patterns.
Oh,
or
that's
stuff
true,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. Something like, because like you said, I think we have been kind of ignoring style variations until now too, because it's like just one set. It's like, yeah, it looks cool, but for actually like professional websites, it's not like that exciting if you're not like selling a theme with like, yeah, so because they only need one style.
Yeah.
But having like a branding set and then be able to export that and import into a new, like maybe for an update or something, that I think that's
It would be cool though. Like imagine if you're a brand and you go through like a rebrand or something, and really the only rebrand was like color change, like subtle color changes. It would be cool if you could keep your site the same and just upload a new set of like colors and styles, and then boom, it's there.
yeah, having it like export import, just like we do that in Figma like a lot, like Manu is working in like a base Figma file, and then we export it into a theme, and then we import the like new styles, just like swap libraries, I think it's called. Swap the library and have like the new styles just for that theme design.
Yeah.
I saw an issue that was like, I forget where it was, but it was like, oh, allow me to apply this style variation only to this post or page, or only to this specific, like, yeah, like even block area pattern. And I thought, oh, like that seems like an actual use case.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, like having it more like a component, like from the
Yeah,
Figma
like a
plugin. I
component.
know you can like have these little checkboxes what you want to export and import, or like just parts of it. I mean, it's pretty advanced, but that would be cool, because now it's like one thing and then you can change it to the next thing, but you can't like select which parts you actually need and which one you want to get rid of, like separate colors from fonts and these things.
Yeah. So one thing that this all relies on is
It's pretty advanced.
is for blocks to be using, especially custom blocks, to be using the same block supports for like typography and colors and everything like that, or else it all breaks. So one of the things that I'm like starting to like really campaign for is that people who are building custom blocks, they need to be supporting, you know, now that we're in 6.1, so much more stuff is supported. You really need to be supporting this stuff, because for block themers who are like doing all this work to like, you know, work within the design space of block themes, and they install custom blocks that just have their own, you know, randomly built stuff, it's pretty jarring. So
yeah, that's gonna be really hard to push that, because they have been building for the last 2-3 years their own custom system, just because they couldn't, like there was nothing available, because we have done that.
yeah.
And I'm now just trying to figure out to how spacing and stuff, how I can push this. It's like, it's hard, because like we've been waiting for too long, so we've just been building custom solutions. I don't think that's like, for my personal perspective, is probably it's not going to happen that they all adapt to the default.
They're not. But I think that as more and more of this functionality comes, like for example, if you were to copy styles, right, from across blocks, you couldn't do that with a random, you know, custom built style system. It would have to work within the style supports, typography, and whatever that come with WordPress. So you're going to run into situations where WordPress releases these new features that users want to take advantage of, and they work on core blocks, but they don't work on custom blocks. So there's going to be, I think, like this self-selecting, where to address the concerns of their customers, or, you know, whatever, they're going to have, people are going to start having to adapt. But
that's true.
an
I'm
interesting
all
spot.
for that. It's
Mhm.
otherwise it's just gonna be a huge mess and not a good user experience.
Oh,
Just kind of
I was
stuff.
using a bunch of custom blocks over the weekend just to test stuff. I almost threw my computer out the window. Like these big companies building custom block sets
I
that
know.
do
I was like,
not
what are
work.
they doing?
Like,
I know it's a
God.
little bit sad because I remember when blocks first started, I was like, oh, cool, that is so exciting. And then they kind of built like the same page builder system thing with these blocks, and people are using it because nothing else was there. So
Yeah. And then
it
as it
just took so
grows.
long. Yeah. It just took so long for like core solutions to, yeah, that's a little bit sad from my perspective as well right now.
The
Yeah,
golden
I'm
age to
curious to
build
see if they
blocks, though.
shift. Yeah. I did want to note, like, part of what you all are describing also relates to just these inherited values and reflecting them too, because this has also come up. Can't remember what the issue was. It's
Yeah,
basically just a way to reflect it better.
it's a huge thing, like reflecting values in theme.json in the UI, because right now it's just like nothing's there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hugely like, not hugely, but obviously this is customized, but like there doesn't seem like it here, which is a huge weird. It's like, wait, what's going on? So yeah, and then if you probably went into global styles and messed with things, it probably confused you further. That's another one that has recently started tripping me up. Is I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mess with global styles, and I'm like, oh, this pattern has some very specific heading that is this specific font weight, and now I can't change it because global styles has low specificity, which we talked about last week. So like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here to figure out. I'm personally really excited to see some of this stuff evolve with global styles, both in terms of importing, exporting, adding warnings around switching style variations, but that's come up multiple times. And then multi-entity saving needs to better reflect. I think this is how my brain works. This is really entertaining to see how I find GitHub issues. Because right now, if you're making changes to global styles, including like a changing to a whole style variation, all you see is a tiny little check mark that's like your styles have changed, and it's like, I've changed everything. What do you mean? Like what? Like this is all that's being checked off. I think it's a little bit different now, but I think I added an update. Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure this recently I shared an update, but yeah, it's like, what if it looked like this instead?
Yeah.
So there's some neat things to explore there.
Oh, that's cool. I like
That's
that.
way, yeah.
There is another. Oh, where is it?
That looks very good.
Oh, there was something that came up around. Hold on, let me find it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Did he share it? I don't think he did just yet. Let's see. I don't think he did. So one of the things I was talking with some designers this week is like, imagine when you're pushing this update. So you make a bunch of changes to a block, you want to then push it to global styles. And imagine when you do that, because that's a pretty serious shift, you're met with like an interface that shows the differences and like, this is what you're changing. And as we were talking about, I was like, can you also think about these granular options? Because if we could have unification between kind of the multi-entity saving experience, as well as if you're pushing something to global, like having it be more intuitive and granular would be huge. And so I think the design is too early, or it's stuck in a Figma. But I think this could be pretty neat to examine as well.
Is there a
like in this
screen
case.
before the? Is there like a screen, like a visual screen before that, above, the one above?
Say more right
So
here.
now I like, yeah. What do I have before?
Oh,
Like, what
this
have I
would
changed?
be.
I mean, what did the people change? You can just change
So in
from
this
a
case,
block.
it's like, imagine you're customizing a block, like you're customizing the block here. And it's just showing up. You could copy styles. You could push to global styles. Obviously, I don't think we're going to use the term global styles. I'm trying to not how that happens.
So if I just change the background, I could change the background I apply to that block just to global styles.
So
Oh,
it could
that's
push
pretty
those changes.
huge.
Yeah, it'd be like, but like the thing is, it's a pretty big. I think it's a great
Yeah,
thing for
that's
probably
pretty
theme
big. Like,
authors.
do I want people to do that?
Do I
No.
want people to do it? Exactly. So that's one of the things is I was like, I think this needs to be in advanced. Like, I think we need to have some friction here. I think we need a warning. I
Because
think we
that
need.
could be super. I like it's a powerful. I like
Mhm.
it, but it could be also like people messing up things they
Exactly.
don't.
Oh yeah, so here we go. This was the design that showed it under advanced. And I was like, yeah, I think that should be pretty hidden. And then even then when you press
I mean,
this,
access global styles from there. That would be cool. Like, or access global styles in general. Like from
Mhm.
because they're not very like people don't even know they exist. Like
yeah.
I showed someone yesterday just how they can actually create a custom color they didn't even know to be in a palette. You know, it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can do that. And then I've won like maybe final. I know like
Mhm.
from the
Yeah,
time
no,
was,
I've found
but
this. Yeah.
when do we get rid of the beta label?
For the site editor.
Yeah, because people are like they don't want to use it because they're like think it's not usable. They're like like from our like customer perspective, they still think it's like so experimental that they don't really want to switch to a block theme. I think this is a huge
Yeah, so
6.2 is the milestone for that, right?
and yeah, it was, I mean, originally we were talking about 5.9, 6.0. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
I think
I'm like,
it's like I get why it's there, but like just from people like motivating
Yeah.
people to switch to the new system, it's pretty big, like a bigger issue than I think a lot of people realize.
So these are the things that have been defined as necessary. So you can see some of them are checked off, which is great. Some are not. This is, I'm pretty sure, being worked on as part of the phase 2 customization as well, tangentially. This one is as well. Mamaduka actually has a PR underway, which is very exciting. So some of the stuff is going to be addressed.
So
Remove coupling of templates and
6.2.
parts. But yeah, I would expect 6.2. And then you'll see below, I mean, there's other stuff that's being brought up as well. So I think at some point when 6.2 roadmap is in progress or out, I'll do another sweep through this issue and be like, hey, where are we at? What do we need to add? What do we need to remove? To make sure we're all on the same page there. Because yeah, this is a big one. And I know some of the designs, like with the browsing work that's being done and reimagining the entrance to the editor, like there's even talk of changing it from editor beta to design or something else. So there's also a discussion to be had there around both removing the beta label and potentially changing the name. So yeah, lots of fun ahead. It never ends. It never ends. I do need to wrap just because I need to be cognizant of time and other stuff going on. But this was really lovely. I will post a recap as soon as I can. It might be tomorrow, depending on what's going on. But thank you all so much for joining and for chatting and for sharing all this sort of stuff. It's really helpful. And I'm gonna probably blast it out to some folks on the theme side who are really thinking a lot about this experience and make sure some of these insights get shared because there's a lot of good stuff. Love the practicality and love the philosophical questions all in one conversation. So sweet. I will see you all in Slack.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
See you guys.
Bye.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, and